all of the news coming out of Keith Middle School, and of course, Dr. Pia Durkin had an interview with the Standard Times earlier this week, in which she stated that, you know, a lot of these problems are being over-exaggerated, and that while there are some issues, she doesn't see there being an overarching discipline problem in the schools, and she refuted some of the stories that Carla Ayers-Tedeschi said in her speech to the school committee on Monday night. Joining us now on the phone line, we have the president of the New Bedford Educators Association, Lou St. John, joining us. Good morning, Lou. How are you?
Hi, good morning, Tim. I'm fine. How are you?
Doing well. And so I assume that you would like to kind of refute some of the statements that Dr. Durkin made, because it seems to me like, you know, she's trying to gloss over some of those issues without addressing them directly.
Well, I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to offer a solution that will work. And it's a solution that I have been talking about for a number of years. In fact, for 9 years I've been talking about this. And last year I went before the city council and I testified for, I would say, probably an hour or more. And the thing that I've been saying all along is that we need more alternative schools for every grade level. We have children who are discipline problems at the elementary level, at the middle school level, and at the high school level. And if we wait until the high school level to create alternative schools, it's not enough. So we have to start with these types of schools. And these schools are not meant to be punishment for children.
Right.
These schools are meant to give the children the resources that they need. We have children who come to our school system who are, well, quite frankly, they're not brought up very well. They don't have the parents don't discipline them well, and so when they come to school, there are no rules. And now all of a sudden, they're in a classroom and they have to follow rules, and they can't handle it. And some children have some severe emotional problems, and you have to have small classes. You have to have psychological help for these children, all kinds of things. But you're not going to be able to do that in a regular classroom setting. You need small classrooms, and you need these schools. That's something that I've been advocating for years. Another thing that I have been saying, which I think makes perfect sense, and it hasn't gotten any traction, is we need a uniform policy, a uniform discipline policy in every school. So that if, let's say, you attend Pulaski School, the discipline policy at Pulaski would be the same discipline that your cousin who attends Kearney Academy would have. But right now, that's not the case. Doesn't that make sense?
It does, but I mean, what do you see as the reasoning behind the differences in those policies? Is it just that they were created in-house over time and haven't been adapted, you know, system-wide?
I am so glad you asked me that question. We had the school committee is responsible for a lot of these things that are happening in New Bedford Public Schools. And we had a school committee person, and I'm going to call her by name, Marlene Pollock. She was on the school committee for a couple of terms, and she did everything in her power to destroy discipline in our schools. In fact, I can remember her daughter-in-law going to Keith Middle School and telling the students that the teachers were picking on them, that they were too hard on them, and that they needed to get lawyers and all this kind of stuff. Marlene Pollock, if you watch the old videos of when she was on the school committee, she never supported teachers. She always said that teachers were suspending kids. In fact, I'm going to tell you a story that you're not going to believe me. And the only reason why I'm going to tell you is because this happened in front of about 25 people at the NBEA Board of Directors meeting. Marlene Pollock came to the office to speak to my board. And she said that teachers were unfairly suspending students. And one of us, it might have been me, it might have been somebody else, I don't remember who said it, but one of us said, Marlene, we don't suspend anyone. It's the role of the administration to suspend a student who is unruly. but give us an example of a student that was suspended unfairly. And her reply was, there was a student at the high school. All he did was pull down his pants and moon the teacher. That's all he did. And he was suspended. Now, I know what you're saying. Lou, you're making this up. And I wouldn't even say this if it hadn't happened in front of about 25 people. That's exactly what happened. She was probably the most adamant person about destroying discipline in the Bedford Public Schools. She never wanted a uniform policy because she blamed the teachers. Every time there was a student who misbehaved, she was on the side of the teachers. On the side of the parents, on the side of the kid. Anytime that a parent called, anytime a student got in trouble, and the parent of that child called her, she would then call the superintendent's office and give 1,000 reasons why the teacher was wrong. That's what was happening all along.
So my question then, and this doesn't really, solve any problems immediately, but I had mentioned the idea of having accountability by putting cameras in the classrooms. Would the teachers be opposed to that, do you think? I mean, I know that in a lot of, other situations, there are workplaces that are recorded like that, and obviously it would have to be something that would be put to a vote to the union, but I could see, that being something that would give teachers a lot of recourse when something does go down.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but I think you just hit the nail on the head. That is something that I would have to ask the members what their position is. I'm not going to, I have not polled the membership, so I don't know if that's something that the membership would want. If that's something that the membership would want, then I would support it. That's my role is I support what my members want.
Sure.
The other thing, too, that one has to consider is the fact that not every parent is going to sign the release.
That's true, too. That was the other thing I was thinking, because I was looking, somebody had texted in and said that, in Massachusetts, you can only record video, you can't record audio. But that's not true. From what I understand, you can record audio if the person is going into this with the expectation that there is no privacy. They have to be alerted to the fact that there's an audio recording going on. So, yeah, that would be kind of the key, is that the parents would have to give consent to their children to actually be recorded, both video and audio.
That's right. So what you might have is a situation where you might have the cameras videotaping all the children, not just the unruly one. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, that would have to be. And
now, if I could, I want to touch on another very, very important point.
Sure.
Now, I've been on your radio show more times than I can count, and you didn't call me today. I actually called you and asked you if I could come on. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. So I've never run from coming on your show. In fact, I like coming on your show because whatever I say is what I say. You can't twist it. You can't say Lou St. John said this because it's on the record.
Right.
So I actually enjoy talking on the radio more than I do giving interviews, because interviews to the newspapers, they can skew what you say. So I thank you for this opportunity.
Oh, anytime.
One of the things that I've been thinking about in these recent days is the fact that a couple of years ago, when I was talking about violence in the schools, I was criticized. I was criticized by the Standard Times. Mr. Urban wrote several articles implying that I was making up everything. There were radio talk show hosts who were basically saying that I was out to disparage the superintendent, that I wasn't giving her a chance, that I was being an obstructionist. And all these different people were criticizing me daily. One radio show host was sometimes spending 2 or 3 days a week just bashing the union, saying that we were making all this stuff up. And now something happened. That Joanne Moore video came out. And now all of a sudden there was proof positive that something actually did happen, that I wasn't making it all up. So now where are all these critics? Where's Mr. Urban in this? Where's Mr. Unger? Mr. Unger wrote article after article after article, or I should say editorials, criticizing the New Bedford Educators Association.
Just to be fair, Mr. Unger's retired.
Mr. Unger wasn't retired when he was making those statements.
Right, but he is now. So.
No, but he is now. But just because you're retired today doesn't mean that we wash away the statements that you made yesterday.
Right, I'm just saying that's why he's not writing anything now.
I understand that. But Mr. Unger is responsible for this too. Because when we brought these concerns to the public, Mr. Unger whitewashed it. He didn't want to have anything to do with this. He was going to blindly support whoever the superintendent was at the time, and so did other people. So I'm basically saying, and I'm saying it very clearly, and I'm saying it very directly, they all have blame here. The other point that I want to make is that I've been saying this now for quite some time, the thing that I'm very concerned about is the teacher turnover. You know, by now, everybody should know, that we have had hundreds of teachers leave the New Bedford school system. That's something that I'm very worried about. And that's something that has to be addressed. Now, I've been to school committee meetings, many school committee meetings where I've heard school committee members say, we're looking for trends, we're looking for this. They have to stop looking for trends, and they have to address the issue. We can talk till we're blue in the face, but until this school committee, and I'm not blaming every member of the school committee, but there are several members on the school committee who have turned a blind eye for too long, and the public has to hold them accountable, because every decision that's made in the school department, the school committee, good or bad, needs to be held responsible for that. And I'll turn it over to you.
Well, I thank you very much for calling in. We do have a couple of calls here that I want to get to before the news, so we'll just end it here a little bit. Thank you, and you know you're welcome anytime to call in.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Take care.